You heard the questions asked by Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
The ambient noise question, the difference between your testimony and what he recalls, the expert who testified a year ago.
I never reviewed Mr. Wodlinger's information. It could have been done over a longer period of time than we did our studies. It could have been done at a different location along Pareca Drive than we did our studies. So I'm not sure specifically about the 45 versus the 55. I can tell you regular ambient activity, if you're standing at Pareca Drive in Cedarville, it's going to be about 55 decibels based on roadway traffic, based on just general outdoor activity. It is possible that if you got deeper into the neighborhood, you may find less of a situation, but I think somebody on the board correctly said we're talking about a 55 reading generated from the track at the nearest property line with no attenuation, and obviously we're looking for attenuation that would get a 10 below that. So that's gets us into the 45 range, which is exactly what we're talking about. Mrs. Wodlinger's study generated.
I have a question. Well, so the 12-month study after the construction, is that to make sure that you're within the 45 or 55 range? And what happens if you're not? Does the wall get higher or thicker or?
Well, I'm not sure whether that is to be decided once we do those measurements where that sits. I mean, we're doing this based on projections, and I guess the 12-month situation is to confirm the projections. If it doesn't meet the projections for some reason based on the criteria that's established, it will meet the criteria and the thresholds that have been established in the ordinance. I guess we're talking about hitting the projections that we've made here. We won't know until we actually do those measurements, but we're relatively confident based on the measurements that we made at tracks with a much higher level of intensity sound generation that what we're doing will be accomplished.
And you're comfortable that that wall will bring the sound down to the 45 decibel level?
Well, again, when you say 45, it's based on averaging, and yes, that's basically what the wall is supposed to do. The attenuation is supposed to bring it 10 below what we projected out with no wall.
Mrs. Marshall, you weren't here for the general development plan. You weren't on the board yet.
But I was in attendance.
We've agreed to comply with the ordinance. What the testimony is projections based on actual measurements and experiences applied to this site. But what we've agreed to do with respect to operation of the site is comply with the existing ordinance.
I was just noted that Mr. Wodlinger's measurements apparently were taken during a rainy day, so there may have been some situation there that would depress outside activity, depress the type of readings that would have come out. Again, in general, based on other measurements that we've made in the area, based on other measurements that we've made in typical neighborhoods, 55 is certainly within the range of reasonability for an ambient measurement.
Mr. Shropshire, you also took your measurements from 21 different locations?
Yes, we did.
As opposed to one location?
That's
by
correct.
the previous person who came in? Okay.
That's correct.